Well, we're now going to bring in Tarik Ramadan. He's a professor of contemporary Islamic studies at Oxford University. Thanks very much for speaking to us. In amidst the intensive media coverage, we've seen the strong language from leaders all around the world and the sense of grief and despair that is being felt not just by the families of the victims of yesterday's attack, but also many people across Europe. What is important about yesterday's attack? What is it that we need to understand? Just put it into some context for us.
Look, I think first, as a Muslim scholar dealing with this, we have to, we have people who use Islam or refer to Islam, and we have to say we are condemning this. This has nothing to do with our religion. And second, to pay tribute to the victims and the victim families. This is also very important to start with. The second thing is also to stick to some principles that we have. Freedom of expression should be protected, and I debated Shab, who was killed yesterday, 2 years ago. And
he was a journalist that you disagreed with.
Yes,
yeah.
And I told him how much I disagreed, but protecting his right of saying what he was saying, it's important. Now, the problem that I had with him at that moment was you still keep on criticizing and stigmatizing the Muslims, and it's as if there is a normalization of this discourse in the West today, not only coming from the far-right parties, it's all the traditional parties are Islamizing all the problems. So there is Islamophobia here.
Do you think they're aware of it? Do you think that self-awareness, that acknowledgement is there?
By the Charlie Hebdo's?
Well, no, not just by the far-right parties, but also the traditional parties that you mentioned.
Yes and no, because the problem is that now we have this kind of standardization of this, a normalization of this discourse, and the problem that 6 years ago, Cine, who was a cartoonist in the same journal, criticized or made a joke on the Jewish affiliation of Sarkozy's son, and he was fired within 2 weeks. And my question to them was then, how come you are speaking about freedom of expression and there is a double standard? If we are against racism, we should be against all racisms. And if we are for freedom of expression, it has to be the same for all.
Do you think that Islamophobia is viewed as a form of racism?
It should be, and it's not acknowledged as such. And the fact that we need also to say, I'm ready to get any type of criticism against, our principles as Muslims are being ready for this. And this is what I said from the beginning. I was one of the first to say Salman Rushdie fatwa was not a religious fatwa, it was a political fatwa. And then what I said also when it came to the cartoons, the Danish cartoons, is I told the Muslims, take a critical distance, don't be involved, this is a trap. Just say we don't like it and be beyond this, full of dignity.
But they don't always do that.
No, but all the European, and if you look at what happened in the West, the great majority of the Muslims are not reacting to this now. They know how it works.
Isn't that part of the problem, that there is a silent majority of moderates, if you like, that aren't speaking up?
I wouldn't say moderates, but I think there is a silent majority, and this is my advice to all the Western Muslims and Muslims around the world.
Why wouldn't you say they're moderates?
No, I don't like the moderate,
right.
because very often, moderate.
But they don't subscribe to.
Bernard-Henri Lévy in France was talking about the moderate Muslims, saying, but you know what? They are moderate Muslims. They drink alcohol. If moderate Muslim is
yeah, it's very difficult to. Yes, it is very difficult to categorize people.
So I would say they are Muslims.
Let me put it like this: when I say moderates, so people that Muslims that would be willing to speak up, that would be able to articulate the fact that there is no separation between Islam and the values and principles of Islam and the principles of freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
Yes, but that's exactly. So these are Muslims, by the way. This is what we have to promote this. And you are right on one point. We need to have more vocal people in the West, and we have to stop being reactive, and we have to stop isolating ourselves. I'm a Western citizen. I am a European citizen, and this is the time for us to be mainstream and not only to talk about Islam, because very often I'm invited to speak as a Muslim about Islam. We need to talk about education. We need to talk about social justice. We need to talk about economy. We need to talk about the issues that we are dealing with in the West. This is something which is very important. And then there is one thing that we have also to add to this. As much as we are condemning this, we want the people throughout the world to give the same value to any human life. Because today 100 people are being killed for the same reasons by the same violent extremists in Syria, in Iraq. It's as if this is normal. So 12 in France, this is an international controversy and an international emotional reaction. 100 is normal because it happens every day. No, that's not acceptable. We need also to be dignified by the way we stand for justice and the dignity of the people in Syria, in Iraq, in Palestine, everywhere in the world. And this is where starts the true discussion, the global discussion.
Do you see the dialogue in the aftermath of this attack moving in this direction? Do you see that, is that where the discourse is going?
No, it could be emotionally, it is going to be exactly the opposite, focusing on, the emotional reaction. But we have a responsibility today in this global world to stop reacting emotionally and to become wise with our principles, to reconcile ourselves with our principles, meaning we have to come to the big picture. And the big picture is today the West and some Western governments targeting and now asking the Muslims to apologize, are themselves involved in killing millions and hundreds of thousands of people by policies that are not giving value to their life. Today, the standard is that the life of the Arabs and the life of the Muslims has less value than the life of Westerners.
Tarik,
that's not good.
Let me ask you let me ask you to tell us a little bit more about the attack that took place specifically yesterday in Paris. And of course, there were certain Islamic-related slogans mentioned during the course of that attack, but I know that you're making it very clear that there is absolutely no link between Islam and Islamic principles and what we saw yesterday. In terms of the nature of the attack itself, many people have described it as being carried out with military precision. When you look at the planning and the execution of it, how does it compare with similar attacks, acts of violence that we've seen in the past?
There are many questions that we still have to ask because, for example, what happened in September 11, what happened in Madrid, what happened in London, and now what is happening in France. We heard yesterday that they left their identity cards, 2 identity cards in the car. It's just so sophisticated as to the means and so silly as to the things that they are leaving behind. I think that we need to ask question, who are these people? How come they can do this? How come, for example...
Does it resemble more a bank robbery than as opposed to an act of violence in the name of some sort of cause that you've seen in the past?
Quite clearly, they were referring to Islam and they said this was the Prophet's revenge. And what I responded to this, no, it's not the Prophet's revenge, it's you betraying Islam and our religion. Now, what we need to get is to go deeper than that. In even knowing who are these people, how they are involved in this, what are the connections, what is the role of the intelligence in the whole thing? Where are they? How come is this possible in such a way? How come it is possible to go and to do this and then to get a hint about what we are going to get, how we are going to get them by having their identity card in the car. So I think that we have to condemn, but we should not be naive. We should go deep in questioning after what is happening in a wise way, what are the consequences and what are the elements that were known by the intelligence and the French intelligence in the first place.
Tarik Ramadan, thank you.
Thank you.